Hi, everybody. Welcome to Watch It or Don't. I'm Tom with Matt and Dan. Today we're talking about The Martian, the new Ridley Scott film starring Matt Damon and everyone else in the world.
Yeah.
It
Joe
is
Ejiofor, Kristen Wiig.
Sean Bean.
Spoiler, he doesn't die in this one. Spoiler.
Yep. About 50 million people we can't think of.
Yeah, Michael
Right.
Pena.
Yep.
It's a great cast.
It was a great
Probably
cast.
the greatest cast ever assembled.
Right.
Honestly.
Anyway, it's about Matt Damon being stranded on Mars,
Yeah.
which, he is the Martian. There's not actual Martians in
Right,
it. Just,
right.
just a quick heads up.
So you won't be disappointed when
But
there's no
yeah,
alien.
he's during a freak storm. He's left behind and has to survive for about 4 years on Mars alone, which involves trying to find food. Which
He's a botanist.
he is a botanist,
Right,
so
Slash knows a lot about science in
okay.
general.
In
Right.
the book, he also has a PhD in mechanical engineering.
Okay. That's
Oh,
fair.
okay.
Anyway, it is based off a book
Yeah.
by Andy Weir, and
Which only Tom has read. I don't know if you can tell.
read this past summer, and it very quickly became one of my favorite books. So I think
Yeah, it's very popular.
our discussion on The Martian, I'm gonna have a little bias.
Right. Is there any more
Right,
intro you
right.
can give? Because I do have a book question. Should
Okay,
we?
okay, go
If
for
that's
it.
fine. How well do you think it compared to the book?
Up until the very end, extremely well. I mean, they cut out some of the things that go wrong, but that's just because you get exhausted at some point,
Oh,
and that
yeah.
works a little better in a book than it does in a 2-hour,
Right.
20-minute movie.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You mentioned Ridley Scott, and he also did Alien and Prometheus, obviously.
So he knows his space.
But this is very, very different than any other sci-fi I've seen.
Yeah, and it's feels wrong to call it sci-fi almost.
It's more just sci. It's just science.
yeah. This movie is interesting because science really is the main character. I mean, it's not about and I was discussing with Dan, but you care less about the character and more about like the interesting science behind what he's doing.
Right.
And that's kind of the driving force, at least for some of us.
It's
anyway,
like there's not really a bad guy in this movie,
Yeah.
which is interesting. Even like there's like NASA like higher ups, and you think maybe like these are the guys like they're all about money and greed and stuff, but this whole movie is filled with very smart people making smart decisions.
That
and
might be
smart-
the only fiction that they're all so
That's
nice
true.
and that countries work together in
Yeah.
the space program because
It's a
it's billions
very-
of dollars on the line.
both of those were tweeted by Neil deGrasse Tyson. I watched
Were they? Oh, that's good.
he has great Martian tweets.
He's a
Okay,
great
it's very optimistic
Yeah.
about what we can accomplish as a human race. That I
Mhm.
thought that part was interesting.
Right.
Basically the whole movie is there's a problem. Some really smart people get together.
Yeah.
They solve that problem. Then another problem occurs. They solve that problem.
Mhm.
It's very cool. The science in this is sweet, and
Yeah.
the visual of the movie, Ridley Scott, I think, did a great job of showing Mars and just showing all the technology,
Absolutely.
making it seem like cool, almost futuristic, but also like this could be now.
Right, and,
Right,
and
at
the
least in the
movie
future.
Yeah.
takes place about 15 years in the future.
Is that what it
That's what
which-
seems about right.
Yeah.
which is actually when NASA's planning their manned mission to
Mhm.
Mars, and I mean, Andy Weir is very into astrophysics and stuff like that, so
Mhm.
he did his research, and most of the science in the movie is real. I mean, some of the stuff is fictional, but that's mainly for plot reasons.
Right.
But Ridley Scott worked with NASA while making this movie to make sure that things were right, and it's such a different take on again science fiction, which just doesn't seem like the right label to
Yeah.
put on it.
It's just space astronaut. movie.
Right. But for
The
me,
new
I
genre,
think
yeah.
that was actually a plus because it was unlike anything. And again, Ridley Scott, Alien, Prometheus are very different. They're very lofty, I mean,
They're dark.
right.
Yeah.
This movie was much more. It seemed much more happy, even when things were terrible. There's not a lot.
He
of...
definitely keeps his spirit up.
Yeah,
I will give him
right.
that for being stranded on a planet by
Right.
himself.
Yeah. So my main problem with this movie,
Right.
and I really wanted to love this because
Mhm.
everything about it seemed perfect. And even though Ridley Scott hasn't been great in recent years, I just felt like this was gonna be his good comeback, and this is a great comeback for him. I think this is
Right.
probably his best thing he's done in the last decade at least.
Oh yeah.
I'd say. The part that kind of I don't say bothered me because
Sure.
I feel like it did what it wanted to accomplish and everything. I can't find fault with what it did, but it feels like science is the main character, and we didn't get that emotional draw with the actual characters. So the whole reason they're trying to get Matt Damon home,
Yeah.
And in the end, I was rooting for Matt Damon, not because I wanted Matt Damon to live necessarily. Right. I really didn't care that much about him. he was great. He was funny and stuff, but I really didn't know him very well where I cared enough. I wanted them to get him back because I was interested in the science and how they were going to do it rather than the actual characters.
You kind of just get the people at face value, and then it's let's look at the science.
There's so many characters in this where you really don't get to spend much time with any of them. Yeah. And I like the first 3/4 of the movie. The last fourth, when you actually, like, the stakes are high and you really want to care about these characters, I really didn't that much. And I know it sounds negative. I like this movie a lot.
They're fictional people, Dan. You're not heartless. You're not heartless.
It makes a lot of sense, though, because that is usually the part in a movie when you are supposed to care, you know?
Right. No, I feel you, Dan, on that.
It's like the last 2 years we've had big sci-fi movies with Gravity and Interstellar, and this is not like those at all, really. Right. But in a way, they are. They're in space using the NASA space program, that kind of thing. And those movies get a lot wrong about science and just plot-wise in general. But they did have this emotional tie to it.
There's more character drama.
Where, in the end, I was so tied to the movie that it didn't matter about those little things.
Right. I agree with that.
Yeah, it's kind of hard to figure out how this movie fits in. And I know we've talked about it several times in this review already, but it's wholly different than that. And I personally, I agree that there wasn't that emotional anchor, but at the same time, I didn't need it. I was very happy.
I don't think everybody does. That was just my personal.
Right. No, I get that.
Matt, you've been pretty quiet.
I was gonna say the one other little problem I had. You pretty much hit the nail on the head. I mean, it's an interesting movie, and the science is really interesting because it feels like real. I mean, I'm not super smart when it comes to science, so like, yeah, I'll believe this. Whatever it is, it's more believable than some of the other space movies I've seen recently. The only other complaint that I was gonna say for my rating is that it's a little long.
It is long.
I felt, and I'm not a huge 3D person. And I know you commented that it didn't necessarily need to be in 3D, which I think it's okay. You don't have to, but me and Dan did.
I didn't see it in 3D, and I didn't feel like I was.
But I think it went on for a little. And I know how you were saying in the book that there are more obstacles that gets in his way. I get just being stuck on that planet is a big enough obstacle for me. I don't need a bunch of other like another setback. It's like he's pretty much screwed. I don't need more. Just get home.
It is long.
I mean, it runs 2 hours 20 minutes. I actually didn't feel like it went too long. I felt I felt like the pacing was good. I've read the book, so I knew what to expect from the characters, so I was looking forward to that.
Right. It felt long for me because I hadn't read the book, and I was waiting for that emotional thing to kick in. Something in the end to kind of kick it in, and it never did, which made it feel stretched a little bit.
Your need for keep wanting plus the time.
Right.
I get you.
Okay.
Do you want to go into ratings, speaking of that, or did you have
one other point?
Sure.
And this is a minor thing, and I don't know if it's maybe nitpicky, but basically NASA spends about like $1 billion to get this guy off Mars, which is really cool. It's like all this humanity coming together to try to save one person. I almost wish they had shown kind of the moral implications of that back on Earth. It's like, if this was a real thing, there would be a huge debate ethically about spending $1 billion on
a person
one
worth
guy.
$1 billion.
One guy who voluntarily went to Mars rather than what good can that do on Earth. I'm not saying one's better than the other. I'm just saying that's an ethical decision that's interesting that they could have covered.
I agree. You bring up a good point, but at the same time, that is an entire movie, in itself.
Right. Yeah,
so,
there wasn't room for it. But
right, and it's hard to say where that would go to, and there's a lot of you could say about that.
Right.
Okay. And I know what you mean, though.
Right. Yeah. Let's jump into ratings. Sure. I can go first.
Yeah, might as well.
I'm giving this a 7.9. I wanted to give it a lot higher. I was really hoping to, but 7.9 is not bad out of 10.
For you.
It's one of my favorite films of the year. It's not going to be my top film of the year by far. I think it's a really interesting science fiction movie, if you can call it that. I think you go see this movie. I think it's interesting enough to see at least once.
Okay.
Matt, what do you think?
Yeah, you better go next.
I'm going to give it a 3 out of 5.
Okay.
I thought it was a good movie. I don't know if I'll ever see it again. There's other... Because like I said, this is a very science and realistic-ish Mars movie. And I kind of, if I am watching a space movie, want a little more excitement.
Yeah.
So I might pick another space movie over this one. So 3 out of 5. It was fun in theaters. You'd have to see it on a huge screen if you're going to go see it. I will say that.
I don't think you have to.
Some space movies, I just like the big thing. But again, you know my opinion on space movies. I know, Tom, go ahead. Take it away.
So I'm giving this movie an amazing. But I do acknowledge that I have a couple biases towards it because
because you read the book.
I loved the book. I love Matt Damon a lot.
He's great.
A lot.
Yeah, a lot. And I generally just love space and space-related things.
This is a big
But,
movie for Tom.
Yeah, it was huge for me. This was probably one of the ones I was looking forward to most, you know, especially before all the holiday movies hit. But, you know, even putting those biases aside, I think the movie just was really solid. There was not a whole lot wrong with it. Again, there were a couple parts at the end that they changed, and I didn't love the changes, but it was overall, I thought, just a really solid, good movie. Okay. Very enjoyable.
All right. Well, we all like The Martian. I think you would too. Martian's out in theaters. You can check it out. Be sure to subscribe to our channel, watch it or don't, to stick it around, and be back for more content. We'll see you next time.